know that the real name of Mount Everest is actually Sagarmatha? But they will allow you to call it Mount Everest. Call it whatever the fuck you want. Name it after some random white guy who at best could inspire the name of a masala company. I get it. I don't have trekking energy. Trekkers, you'll see, trekkers will always have these craggy faces with haunted eyes. Where they're like, man, I've seen some shit, man. Mine is very, I did the shit that guy saw that made him have haunted eyes. I get it. I'm also, dude, I'm a city kid. I have never heard the word trek used in a positive connotation. It is always Andheri East to Andheri West was such a trek, yeah. I live with my mother. And that is why I had the money for this trek, which I will tell you cost me 2.5 lakh rupees. I know. In spite of the fact that I rented everything on this trip, everything, except chaddi and juta. I rented every single thing and it still cost me that much. And I am telling you the amount because first of all, I've realized whenever you tell an Indian crowd that you have fun, the first question they will ask is, "Wo sab theek hai, paisa kitna gaya?" And so I am telling you the amount. You can go purchase this experience for yourself. Or you can listen to my story about it because my CA said if I write a show about it, then I can write it off on my taxes as work expenses. Of course, I have never had an idea that my mother hasn't shat on in 30 different ways. She's like, Aditi, please, all this trekking, bullshit. She's like, trekking is for refugees and white people who pay for the wars that make those refugees. And you are half Sindhi, your people just stopped needing to trek 1 generation ago. So out of respect for your ancestors, sit the fuck down. So I said to my mother, Mama, please, you should be grateful that I do not want to go to the top of Mount Everest. She's like, yes, but I'm very proud of your middling ambition. At this rate, you'll never leave the house. It's just, wow. Because I realized for Indian parents, suffering is the only way you can achieve something. She's like, Aditi, you come back from this trek with 3 toes and 1 arm. And I will clap for you because you won't be able to. And it's true. I was like, Mama, please, no, you should be grateful that I don't want to go to the top of Mount Everest and be trash over there. Because I found out something crazy about the top of Mount Everest. 30 meters from the highest point on Earth, 8,840 meters above sea level, is this thing called green boots. And it is a pair of green boots. And it is just there, frozen into the ice, to the point that it has now become a landmark. So whenever someone is going to the top of Mount Everest, they'll say, hey, go to green boots and take a left. And I was like, wow, this is typical Indian behavior. Somebody was like, ये तो mountain नहीं, ये मंदिर है, चलो चप्पल निकाल के दर्शन के लिए चलते हैं. Because that is a human tendency, right? Wherever you go, you want to leave a trace of yourself behind. We are the race that will go to Sistine Chapel and then spray paint on top of it. Where is 17 Chapel? Just why not? Why not? I was here. In fact, I found out the 3 craziest places that humanity has left a sign of itself in the form of microplastics. 1, the top of Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth's crust. 2, the Mariana Trench, the lowest point on Earth's crust. And 3, sperm, which when it dries up becomes crust. That's why when they say, oh my God, your baby looks like a doll, you're like, yeah, it's 20% plastic. And I wanted to go. I was like, you know what, ye dekh ke aa jate Mount Everest, whatever. Before global warming, pata nahi kya. Might as well go have a look and come back. Or at least before they rename Himalayas into Adani Mountains or whatever. Shut up. They can't call it Geo Mountains, yeah. People have died there. Even Ambanis are not that tacky. Yikes, guys. Hold it together. And yes. Friends, you are right. I am going through my midlife crisis. This is it. Though I don't have the budget for conventional markers of the midlife crisis, like getting an open top car or a hair transplant, which I've realized usually one leads to the other. ऐसा हर्र गया and then you're like, oh shit, मेरे को ऐसा नया डालना पड़ेगा. It's Jeff Bezos, ही जगह abs तो already है, इधर डाल दो, you know. But you stop. I did one of those things. I got myself a younger man. Thank you. They're very easily available. Like, it's actually not much of an achievement. But you know what I realized? I love dating a younger person because my love language is making people laugh. And younger men just laugh easily. Like, I realized younger men laugh easily when you're being funny and take you seriously when you're being serious. Older men laugh when you're being serious and get offended when you're being funny. Because older men only laugh when world economies collapse. There's this very younger men are very which is more my vibe. I'm 38 years old, which I think is a really good midpoint in life, right? It's double of she died so young and half of she lived a full life. And you know, they say that when you die, your entire life flashes before your eyes like a film. And I've realized your midlife is kind of the interval point. Where you're like, अच्छा गाना चल रहा है, थोड़ा stretching करके आ जाते हैं, popcorn खरीद लेते हैं, bathroom होके आते हैं. And you can decide whether you want to go back and watch that exact same film again, right? 38 is that age where when you're using a public toilet and you can hear the person in the stall next to you having a really rough time. Like you can hear the... Dude, 38 is that age where you don't laugh. You relate. You're washing your hands, they're like, have you tried chia seeds? I mean, your toilet bowl will look like the bottom of a Faluda glass for a couple of days, but worth it. हाँ, sabji bhi chalega, but that's if you wash your hands, you know what I'm saying? COVID has taught us nothing. Dude, 38 is that age where now the font on my phone is billboard size. Every message that comes in is a public service announcement. If you can read it in the last row, you answer it. It's your problem now. 38 is that age where now I'm very conscious, not of what I wear. I will wear a plastic bag on top. But inside, my chaddi and my juta, high quality. Outside, poverty. Inside, generational wealth. Dude, also, I love being a woman in my 30s because I don't have to be a woman in my 20s. I love being a woman in my 30s. See, because you know what? As a woman in your 30s, you have now exited the male gaze, the fuckability period. Right? At this point, your parents have given up on you. नहीं करेगी ये शादी, क्योंकि इसके साथ भी कोई नहीं करेगा अब. In your 20s, you know, they'll be like, oh my God, sleeveless pehni hai, molest ho jayegi. I was like, who's looking at this part of my arm? And it's like, like this. Clearly, it's a him problem. I'm just out here having arms. In your 30s, they're like, hey, attention-seeking auntie, nangi bhi ghumegi na, koi nahi dekhega. And I'm like, oh my God, nange hi ghumte hain. They say now that as women get older, you become invisible to society. You must not be seen unless society wants to put its dick in you. And and which is why I believe that older women would make the best serial killers. You know what I'm saying? You're just standing there on top of a dead body, blood dripping from a knife you're holding. And the police will come and push you aside and be like, "Chal na murderer dhoondte hain, ye sleeveless auntie pata nahi attention seeking kar rahi hai." Dude, I want to grow old. Like, I want to be, like, I'm projecting old age. I want to be auntie is like that only years old. That's my dream age. Dude, you are so old that your spine is bent into a question mark. Your split ends have gone to your roots. You're just smelling like 5-day-old talcum powder because your wrinkles don't allow you to wash it off. You enter every room with a scowl on your face, just sari pallu on the floor, one bra strap here, one bra strap here. You just walk into the room and put your boobs on the table as a power move. I'm occupying 2 seats now, bitch. And then you can say the most racist, sexist fuck call. Uska chhati nahi hai, uska land nahi nikla. Just anything you can say. And people will be like, let it be, aunties like that only, yaar. Abhi kya hi bole, yaar. It's a bit disingenuous of me to be like, oh, I'm going through my midlife crisis now. Because I've been doing this job for 10 years now. And this job is a midlife crisis. Because some frequent stand-up comedy fans, they know what I'm talking about. 50% of the time you're existential. What is the meaning of life? 50% of the time you're like, I should tell others what is the meaning of life. Maybe someone will give me money for it. I'll be honest, I've seen midlife crises up close for a while now, because I do corporate shows. Anyone? Corporate shows? This is clearly not how I make money. Like, this barely covers the rental of this place for tonight. I do corporate shows. Y'all know corporate shows? Corporate shows are kind of like the midlife crisis mela. The Lil Flea of midlife crises, if you will. Corporate show mein what happens? Now there's some corporate where the employees are committing suicide because of stress and all. So then instead of giving them a raise, they'll book an off-season banquet in a Goa resort. And then from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, they will have presentation, panel, speeches, discussion. Company's dick is so big. Half of you are fired. 50% profit. And so this will end at 5 o'clock. But Susegard, Go and Resort will only open bar at 6 p.m. So between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. stand-up comedian. Then now, look, I already believe it is a human rights violation to come in between a corporate India employee and free alcohol. And look, it's not my crowd. It's not my crowd. Because most of corporate shows and corporate India employees are middle-aged married men. They don't want to hear jokes about growing old with boobs on table and all. They only want to hear what they know already. My father was mean to me. My wife is a nag. She takes too long to get ready. I'm like, fuck, you're not my target market, your wife is. But shut up, no. And so then I'll prepare, bro. I prepare. I'm a preparer. So I'll do like, fucking 60 minutes of jokes on human resources. Human resources is the buaji of the company. She will say, beta, tell me your problems and then use them against you only during appraisal. That was my audition. If anyone's looking to hire, let me know. I'm broke. But so I prepare. I will put on my makeup, I'll do my breathing exercise. And then I will wait backstage with my mic. And then suddenly the organizer will come and be like, Aditi, listen, 1 second. We are going to have to delay your act by an hour. And I'm like, oh, why? She's like, the CEO of the company wants to do stand-up. Now, look, stop. It's fine. Here's the thing, I'm actually a super caring and like nurturing person. I give that vibe, right? Yeah. I give that vibe, right? Thank you. So I'm like a really soft type of person, right? I don't mind giving up my 1 hour to somebody who's like either worked really hard or evaded the right taxes. Because that is the Indian dream. And so, I mean, look, as long as it stops them from starting a podcast, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we don't bitch about Nikhil Kamat's podcast enough. It's one of the malaises of our society. But so whatever, he'll get on stage. Give me a red pen of any color. Open the window and let the atmosphere come in. My wife won't let me watch porn. One day my son was watching porn, I caught him, now we watch it together. Whatever the problems that are plaguing men of that age, right? And the audience. Oh, fuck, sir! Sir, you are George Carlin, Johnny Lever combined. Sir, Johnny George, Carlin Lever. Sir, आप मेरे मुंह में थूक दो. वो प्रोफेशनल कमेडियन को बुलाओ, उसको अंधेरे में धकेल के उसके गांड में फुलझड़ी लगाओ ताकि जब भागे तो जुगनू लगे. For not being as funny as our boss. And I'm like, yeah, obviously he's hilarious. Because the one thing I've learned in 38 years of my life is that there is no one funnier than when you want something out of someone. Why you think girls laugh the way we do on first dates? You ain't that funny, buddy. It's the paneer shaslik that needs to be paid for. And of course, like any decision made in the throes of a midlife crisis, I decided to cancel it. I called my trek leader. His name is Binoy Boban. That's his real name, I'm not even making it up. It's Binoy Boban. I said, wow, buddy, that's a lot of B's in your name, man. He said, it stands for be kind, be humble, be brave. It's like, I think I am already be fed up of this guy. You know, they say now if you take a candle and stand in front of a mirror at 3 in the night in the dark and say, Binoy Boban, Binoy Boban, Binoy Boban 3 times, your candle glows out because you spat so much. So anyway, Binoy Boban. Binoy is my age, but he looks like my son. Not a pore on this motherfucker's body. Every nerve ending of his is constantly awash in serotonin and endorphins. Eyes glazed over with happiness like he's Katrina Kaif in an emotional scene. Only wrinkles on his entire body are from the side of his eyes, from constantly squinting, from looking at the bright side of life. Your house is on fire, let's do a tandoor. I'm like, is this guy okay? But it's chicken, bioavailable protein. So anyway, I go to his Instagram profile. I'm like, I gotta see what this guy's about. And so I go to his Instagram. Every single post, he's doing some random stunt. Just hanging off a cliff with his appendix. Taking out a tumor from his puppy with his hands. Solving a Rubik's Cube with his knees. And then underneath the caption will be like, my enemies said I couldn't do it. But I did it. I'm like, Abe bhan chod, you don't have any enemies. You're in bed by 9 o'clock every day. That's peak enemy making time. Even your enemies are like, we never said he could not do it. He's literally doing it in the picture. I don't know why he's dragging us into it. Yeah, I was like, this guy, I gotta call him. So I call him, I said, hello Binoy, listen, I cannot come for the trek because I have to do a corporate show where the CEO has to do stand-up before my set, so I will not be able to come. No problem, yaar. We chat for 5 minutes. Then at the end of the call, he's like, chalo, so glad we had this chat. Now I'll see you 5,634 meters above sea level. I was like, did I forget to tell him? Then I said, no, I'll call him again. 5 days I waited. 5 days later, I called him. I said, hello, Binoy. I cannot come because my mother said I have to be trash at sea level only. Binoy's like, yeah, no problem, man. Then again, we talk shit for 5 minutes. Again, at the end of the conversation, he's like, chalo, so glad we had this chat. Now I'll see you 5,634 meters above sea level. I was like, fuck, imagine trying to break up with this guy. It's that situation where your dupatta gets stuck in the car door and now the car has started, so you just have to run along. Save your life. We started the journey at Lukla Airport. Lukla is the airport that you use to get into the Himalayas. It is, it's the Nepali name, the name for it is the land of cows and sheep, which we didn't see any of because their sheds were being used as the airport. And it's really dangerous, right? You're there 16,000 feet in the air, between 6 mountains, and you're flying off this airport, which has got the shortest runway in the world. And I'll tell you the difference and the need between a short runway and a long runway. Long runway is And short runways. You tell me which will last longer in the air. I was standing there in front of this plane, which was like a Pringles can with wings, right? And I'm having a meltdown. I was like, oh my God, did I just pay 2.5 lakh rupees to die? You know, and it reminded me of those 4 billionaires who had taken the submersible to go see the Titanic, right? And they died. And when they did, when that news broke, everyone was like, oh my God, I wonder when the movie will come out. Because it's probably going to cost less than how much they paid to go. Anyway, I'm just saying it's a low sympathy way to die. I don't know. There are all billionaires out here. Not ready to give 10 rupees for Sudha Murthy's sari, but really... Okay. So I went up to Binoy. I said, listen, Binoy, so if this plane crashes and then we die, will we end up like trash in the mountains? Like green boots? And he's like, actually, Aditi, green boots has a person inside it. And his name is Sevang Paljor. He was a soldier with the Indo-Tibetan Border Force, and he died there in 1996 while attempting a summit. And because when you die up there, there's no fear of decomposition. And of course, it's actually dangerous for anyone else to be able to take your body and come down. And so you just leave them there. And I was looking down at the ground. I kept thinking to myself, thank God I bought these shoes. Because I cannot imagine the rental charges I would have to pay. On to something lighter. My personal altitude friends. I am 1.6 meters high. I am 5'1". Everyone below 5'3", give me a cheer. Oh, my tingoos, we love you. I love being short. You know, I realized you can tell a short person from, you don't even look at the whole person. You can just tell from below their knees. Because every short person will have calves like baguettes. Because full day you're doing window, shelf, hanger, switch. Every day is calf day, even if you're not a BJP supporter. And I like being a short woman, because I don't have to be a short man. I don't have to deal with that drama. Though I don't understand women who are like, no, I just want a guy who's tall, yeah. I just want a guy who's tall. I want a guy who makes me feel small, yeah. It's like you want a guy who makes you feel small, just earn more than him. And dude, you know, as a sign of solidarity to my taller sisters, I categorically refuse to date anyone who is taller than 5'8". I'm done. Because you know what? Eyes are the windows to your soul. What's the point if you have to take lift and go to look in them? Get spondylitis from falling in love? Ain't nobody. And dude, short person and tall person sex, wildly impractical. You're there, whatever, 69ing, and he's eating you out. And then you're just there, furiously tonguing his belly button. Just and his dick is flapping on your head. Idhar dekh, idhar dekh, idhar dekh. I don't know. Are we still 69ing? I feel like it's a very, it's like, oh wow, a sex position where everyone's working, no one's having fun. But on this trip, I met someone who was shorter than me. Because I have been the shortest in a lot of rooms. This girl, 4'9". 4'9". That's like legal midget. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I was obsessed. I mean, there were a lot of people on this trek. Of course, there were some Gujaratis, as they always are. Any Gujus in the house tonight? I don't understand what you're so proud about. It's not like you're special. 60 of you in every room. Dude, Gujaratis are like the Jewish people of India, right? Because they are incredibly rich, they have great business acumen, and it's not a good time to be a Muslim around their governments. I see you didn't laugh though. I just... No, okay. Better one. Another is that if India was the European Union, and Gujaratis would be like the Italians, because they are loud. They love their food and family. And much like the Italians, I don't think I have ever seen a single Gujarati by itself. You know what I'm saying? Like seeing a single Gujarati by itself is like seeing a single grape. They're like, surely there is a bunch it has rolled away from just around the corner somewhere. Like I'm telling you, if Gujaratis were the first to land on the moon, it would be a 70-mark answer. One step for mankind, one large garba step for Joesh Bhai, Virali Didi, Zarna Ben, Bhavin Bhai. But anyway, sorry. I was talking about Preeti, oh my God, Preeti. Just golden honey brown hair, just flowing down to her legs like that. A halo of fairy dust around her. Cheeks like a trampoline. She was wearing this velvet shirt with embroidery on it. These amazingly expensive looking jeans. And I was just dazzled by her. I was like, oh my God. This bitch is not prepared for the trek at all. Dude, I dug my claws into her. I was like, she is my best friend from now onwards. And you know they say, right, that when you're being chased by a bear, you don't have to be the fastest one in the group. You just have to be faster than the slowest one in the group. And Preeti was the slowest one in the group. And look, I'll be honest, I actually am a very reserved person. I'm actually quite shy. I get very hesitant to make friends with people, but it's very easy when you're doing these groups and trips like that, because then you can be whoever the fuck you want to be. You don't have to claim the loser you are at sea level. Like if anyone ever comes to me and they're like, are you Aditi Mittal, that comedian? Huh? Like, you really look and sound like her. I'm like, that's crazy. Because especially in India, I don't know whether you want a selfie with me or you want to slap me. I love telling lies. What's your name? Girish. What do you do? I'm a Mughal era erotica writer. People are like, wow, tell us less. But I became friends with Preeti because that bitch laughed at everything I said. I told you it's my love language. She loved me first. Dude, this trek is actually very well known for how scenic it is. They say that you will see every landscape on the planet in 15 days. I say we saw every landscape in the solar system in these 15 days. Oh, you see, Mercury saw it. Because sometimes the heat would radiate off the ground. It would look like we're not trekking. It would look like we're twerking. Saturn saw it. Sometimes wind so cold, blowing in one ear, out the other ear, like you had no brain in the middle. And yet you somehow had brain freeze. Uranus saw it because toilets were very few. At some point, we're walking 2.5 kilometers of stairs. And you all know, Stairway to Heaven? I was in hell. And then perpetually positive Preeti over there. But Aditi, think about how amazing your ass is gonna look after this. I was like, what's the point? I'll be dead. Unless they put me face down on a funeral pyre. And my juicy ass fuels the fire. And die and come back to life. I see dead people with great asses. Day 3 to 5, we were looking at yaks. A lot of yaks. You know what a yak is? So yak is a type of bull that's named after the sound you make when you first smell it. Dude, you know, there are these types of bulls that have their hair down to their noses. And 100% they're rolling their eyes at you from behind it. You know that same disdain you reserve for someone who's listening to a video on the bus without headphones. Same. Yeah. Jana yahan se. Dude, yak are amazing. And I'll tell you why. Because in the absence of a path on this trek, what they would do is they would tell you to follow yak shit. They're like the Google Maps of this region, right? So if they say if a yak has passed by and shat there, you can pass by and shit. And, though I did. I mean, let's just say I'm a committed yak. And I just thought it was so impressive. I was like, wow, these massive creatures, sometimes traveling over paths that are literally the size of my thigh, on stones that are the size of my hand, and doing it with their assholes unclenched. Wow. We were once, at one point we're walking, and we're both, Preeti and I, of course, holding the entire group behind. And you're welcome. And we see a horse, and it starts following us. And of course, in that altitude, you get emotional. So we'd both lost our dads, and we're talking about our dads. And I said to her, Preeti, this majestic creature that has come next to us, it feels like my dad's spirit is in this horse. And it's encouraging us to not give up on this trek. And Preeti's like, no, Aditi, my dad's spirit is in I said, there's another animal there, man. Why you got it anyway? She was a new friend, you got to do what you got to do. So I was like, yeah, I guess. And then Binoy comes to be like, hey ladies, chala, chala, chala. And Preeti points and she's like, look at this beautiful creature, Binoy. And Binoy's like, yeah, isn't it crazy? Even the donkeys in the mountains are so good looking. So yeah, Preeti's dad was literally here in this second. Is that crazy or what? Some honesty time, because there's nothing like truth in comedy. One of the major reasons that I decided to do this trek was because I was told that you will lose 5 kgs in 15 days. It is true. I feel like it's not hitting a lot of you how impactful that is. Like, it's 5 kgs in 15 days, yo. Like, again, I don't know about you, but I feel like my whole life will change. After this will become a 10,000 seater at 1 million rupees a ticket. You know what I'm saying? But that's only after my last 5 kgs. And the younger kids get very upset when we millennial women express our severe body dysmorphia. They're like, no, Aditi, you're beautiful just the way you are. And I'm like, bitch, I never said I was ugly. I was seriously considering taking Ozempic. You guys know Ozempic? Fat loss drugs of the yesteryears. You take a tablet and then the fat used to exit your system through what the brochure lovingly called oily stools, which sounds like the name of a 1980s British punk band. But Ozempic, know how it works? Like, I think you inject it into your eyeball, or you put it in your gums, or spread it on bread or whatever, like whole wheat bread. And then you take it, and then it works on your brain. So you stop feeling hungry and then you become thin. Dude, I went to a friend of mine who's a doctor, and I was like, Doc, you have got to give me Ozempic. And she's like, Aditi, I'm a dermatologist. And I was like, yeah, the fat is under my skin only. And she's like, no, Aditi, it's a drug for diabetics. And I was like, my dad had diabetes, fucking, let's get pre-treatment started. She's like, oh, no, Aditi, let's wait for 5 years, because then we'll know the side effects. We'll know if you're getting a kidney coming out of your neck. You've got teeth in your ass. We'll know all this, right? And she's like, anyway, the lifestyle you lead, in 2 years you'll have diabetes, so come back then, no problem. And I mean, look, that trek, we did a lot of walking. We walked 70 kilometers, 15 days, 5,634 meters above sea level. We ate fresh Himalayan food. Have you guys seen a Himalayan apple?
Yeah.
It flirts with you. I cannot look at a Himalayan apple without blushing. I'm like, hey, apple ji, take me on a date first. Dude, Himalayan apples are the Ila Arun of apples. You cut it and the sound comes, hey, like that, okay? You can taste it in your groin, you know what I'm saying? Dude, we would walk into the camp, okay, and there would be these spinach leaves just jumping out of the ground like luscious exclamation marks. And then 20 minutes later, it would be on your plate. And I'm telling you, it was so surreal to me, because I'm a city kid. I had never eaten food so close to the source. Like, they say farm to table. This was farm under table. I was like, I should sit here only and fertilize it, or what? Just circle of life will happen. Dude, it had this really earthy taste. Which kind of, it reminded me of giving a blowjob for the first time. Where I was just like, I guess, why the fuck are there microplastics in here? What the I mean, I hope this is relatable. Otherwise, it's just me blowing earthy dick dudes, I guess. But anyway, no, you know what I realized? How the measure of how good a food is actually not only how tasty it is while going in, but also how little it hurts while coming out. And I don't know, I will tell you why I bring it up, because, side note, there is nothing as splendid in human design as the plastic bag. You put one hook here, one hook here. Dude, you can walk and vomit at the same time. You don't have to stop and be like, no. Dude, just... And why do I bring up vomiting, right? Because we are creatures of sea level. We are designed to thrive at sea level. Think, eat, sleep, talk. Everything at sea level. We are not actually meant for the mountains, where you have to breathe like you're trying to suck in a boba tree through a normal straw. So when you get up there, you get something, the human body gets something called altitude mountain sickness. Okay, and altitude mountain sickness is a series of symptoms. And it includes things like sleepiness, awakefulness, diarrhea, constipation, nausea, dysphagia, anything and everything, and its opposite. And here's the thing, by then I was peeling like a wallpaper in a haunted house. I was just chithade. One wind would blow me, behti hawa saath, just out. So I went and I stole Preeti's body lotion and applied it on my body with the passion of someone who had not paid for it. Dude, I of course also my lower back nose and my nose were bleeding like crazy because the membranes in those areas are like the plot line of a Saw movie. Just little bit action and blood everywhere. And the only solution to get out of it is to take a helicopter. And a helicopter costs 50,000 rupees. And you have to take a caretaker down with you, so you fucked up the trek for somebody else as well. Look, I was not going to take a helicopter, okay? Because that is the sign of admitting defeat. Of course, the Gujaratis had already booked it, because group discount. But I was not going to take it, okay? I was not going to take it. One, because I had already bought these shoes. I needed to wear these shoes out. And maybe I believe, just like my mother, that in order to achieve something, I have to suffer. And therefore, I was going to suffer. I was very excited about my suffering. And, on a helicopter and all, dude, going down with helicopter is very horsey. You know what I'm saying? It's like getting sent home from school for shitting your pants. I'm not interested. And also helicopters, they're like the fuck boys of the flight method world, dude. Like, they're showy, they're noisy, they go in and out of surfaces really easily, and they're only good for short distances. Like, it's helicopter against my culture, frankly. So I was not going to take. And I realized that the major reason that I had become friends with Preeti was because I knew that if the helicopter was going to come for someone in the group, it was going to come for her first. And then I would just jump along and be like, pata nahi, main isko jana se itni choti si hai. What if someone mistakes her for a backpack? Chalo, main aati hu. Iska mufte ka ride leke aati hu. Dude, I feel like we haven't mentioned Gujaratis enough. Because see, Gujaratis, they travel like a flash mob. But instead of stopping and dancing, they'll stop and eat theplas. Theplas? Theplas are, the Oxford English Dictionary defines theplas as spiced leavened bread from the Gujarat region of India. But actually, theplas are Gujarati cigarettes. Okay. You will see, every Gujarati will have his personal supply of 20 in his back pocket. And then they'll break off into groups every 1 hour to eat. Dude, there were a minimum of 300 theplas on this trip. And those were just the ones I ate. There were easily about 4,000 to 6,000 teplas on this trip. And they were all being carried up to Everest Base Camp by the Sherpa. Okay, we had 4 of them. Nima, Nuru, Radhe, Sonam. And let me tell you, whatever I say about them is going to be objectification. I'm telling you, the Punjabi mummy in me was triggered. I was just like, "Enne sone munde anu pind le jao, shaadi karwa do kudiyan nalo, enne gol gappe jede bacche niklange." It's not eugenics if a Punjabi mummy says it. You know what I'm saying? Thanks. So the Sherpa, as you said, is a community of people that live in the Indo-Tibetan region, in the Himalayas, and they have something called the super athlete gene, where they can breathe easily in low oxygen environments. They're basically the next evolution of man, right? And I'm like, fuck, super athlete. मेरे को यहाँ पे regular athlete पे impress हो जाऊंगी. I don't even need you to be super anything. And it's crazy to me, right, that their ancestors leave behind for them super athlete gene. Ours leave behind for us diabetes. Dude, we had one Nima who was training to be an ice doctor. And ice doctor are the Sherpa that go into the mountains and set up the ropes and ladders that regular trekkers use when they are going for their trek. They basically risk their lives so that we can risk our lives. For Instagram though, like ours is more vibes based. And they basically like the Christopher Columbus of that region, except they don't get credit, but they know what they're doing. And they were doing it in sliders. You all know sliders? It's that chappal with the tube top for the feet. You all have seen that, just one like that. Bro, the name gives me anxiety. It's written there, slider. Fuck! These kids were holding these massive bags, 20 kgs of teplas. Like we had a dedicated tepla Sherpa. You know what I'm saying? He's holding this massive bag, walking up to Everest Base Camp over all these dangerous stones in sliders. And you know what? I was watching these kids with their feet and I kept thinking, you know, in that moment it made me really patriotic. Because, you know, I thought about the one thing we don't give Gandhiji enough credit for. And that's his incredible toe grip strength. In his chappals too, there was not a strap in sight. It's just an inverted Indian toilet. And he walked all the way to Dandi for food seasoning for you. I was stressing the entire time, okay? I was just like, this is so surreal to watch. You know, it was like watching Superman do Zomato deliveries. It's like, fuck, is this horrible feeling in my chest, is this what Dipinder Goyal feels like all the time? The only thing that keeps Indians as travelers humble is when the currency is higher than ours. But in Nepal, it is lower. There's always one of them who's like, "Arey, see, now they are saving our lives, they are serving us food, they are taking us up, but why they are not smiling at us?" I was like, maybe make your face less unsmileable at. Improve your looks. You want him to do your work and smile at you while doing it. He's a Sherpa, not your wife. He was very pissed off, this man. He was like, "Hey, how could they? You know, if they don't smile at me now, then I will not tip them well." And I was like, bro, we are Indian. We don't even pay them well. Tipping to dur ki baat. Oh, that's what Dipinder Goyal feels like all the time. Okay, that makes sense. You know, the day we were supposed to get Everest Base Camp, we were supposed to get there at 6 in the morning. So we start walking at 1 in the night. And it's getting cold. Like, it was supposed to start snowing. The temperature was falling. But it was just not starting to snow. And I was, at this point, like, I was flaking like a croissant in a backpack. Okay? I was just like 80% skin flakes. held by a bunch of organs inside. So I walked and I was applying that cream. It wasn't even going into my skin. Okay, I walked up to Preeti to criticize the poor quality of lotion that I had stolen from her. And then I see that she is sitting on the floor of her tent and she is putting on her shoes. And I see her feet and she's got these blisters, giant blisters as big as an apple on both her feet. And one of them has burst. And you know, it's like that fear you feel, like you feel a current in your nipples. And I was just looking at that and I was like, I think we're going home. I'm telling you, I almost turned around to start packing. And then I saw that she took a bandage out of her bag, wrapped it on her toes, put on her socks, put on her shoes, and started walking. You know how it is when you think really highly of yourself, but then someone you don't think very highly of behaves better than you. I was too ashamed to even talk to her that day. I was just like, I'm just gonna walk. And so I walked with my blood crusted on my scarf and on my ass, feeling like sandpaper against my skin. Just following one step of yak shit after another. And I think it may have been 1 hour, 2 hours, 7 days, who knows? I suddenly see that the yak shit has stopped. Because the road has stopped. And so I turn around to make some cheap joke, and then I notice that nobody's there. And then I look over the edge, and that's when, you know, the backs of your knees and your feet come online. Where they're like, oh, we exist, tingle, tingle. And I'm looking down at it, and a voice in my head went, jump. And look, of course, I'm not suicidal, dude. Please, like my therapist said, I'm more likely to be the cause of someone's... But I'm not. But you know, in that moment, I realized that one of the few things that we do not have control over, no matter how rich you are, is how you die. Right? And it, unfortunately or fortunately, is the last story that we get to tell the world about ourselves or that the world tells about us. That's why you hear about somebody dying, your first question is, how did it happen? Because it's your last brush with reasoning. I would be horrified to have one of those deaths where you're like 5 years later, you're like, you know, reading the newspaper, and then one of you is like, you remember that Aditi Mittal? You're like, which one? What? Arey, she was that comedian, we saw her at NCPA, she was sweating a lot. Oh, yeah, what happened? Why you brought her up? Dude, she died. How? Arey, she was using an Indian toilet. One cobra came out and bit her in the ass. And she was not flexible enough to suck the poison out. Not that she had teeth in her ass from using Ozempic, she would have bit the snake back. But that also didn't happen. But okay, in a capitalist society, what gives you meaning? Your job. Your job gives you meaning. Previous generations would tell you, work for the same company for 25 years, you will get a pension and a gold watch. But that doesn't hold true anymore. Now, in 2026, corporates have more human rights than humans have corporate rights. They'll tell you that, you know, you need to give them 2 months notice to leave the job, but they can fire you in 2 minutes. I'm like, great, I'm in a monogamous relationship with my company. My company's in a polyamorous relationship with everybody. That is why it is called a monopoly. And maybe in that moment, that's the control I wanted, to feel like, oh, I am not invested in a world that is not invested in me. And I thought of Sevang Paljor in that moment. The day he must have bought those shoes when he was standing in the shop and he pointed to those green boots and said, those are the shoes I want. Those are the shoes that became the reason that we still talk about how he died and we still mention his name. And as I'm looking down, I notice a flash of green on the side. And I realize it's Binoy's jacket. And I'm like, fuck, I hope Binoy's inside it. And Binoy looks up and he's like, Bhaj, where the fuck are you? He gets to me, behind him is Neema. Neema walks over and gives me 3 theplas. It's like the Gujaratis were the ones who realized you were missing because you hadn't stopped to beg as you do every 20 minutes. I'm telling you, I think my eyes finally thawed, okay? I was like, मेरे को घर जाने का है. मेरे को helicopter ले गया. Please, I beg you, I just want to be at sea level. I did not realize I would come to the mountains and the scariest thing would be inside my head, Binoy. So Binoy said, calm down, we'll get you to a place, we'll get you nice and warm. We're walking back, and as we're walking back, he points to the mountains and he says, look at the white markings on those mountains. He says, you know what those markings are? Those markings are where these mountains used to be underwater. And millions of years later, they will go back into the water, because even mountains are just land that has been rented from the sea. And I was like, can I see them better from the top of the helicopter? You think, like, it's feeling, I really want to breathe right now. Dude, we were like 20 minutes away from Everest Base Camp at that point. They had to roll me over. They were just like, abhi khatam karo, idhar tak aaye ho, khatam karo. For anyone who's like, wow, should I go to Everest Base Camp? My advice, no. It's fucking disgusting. There's kachra everywhere. Everyone's just roaming around like they're in the aftermath of a bomb blast, just looking for their legs. They're like, huh? This is it. Where it is? Just, you can't even see Mount Everest from Everest Base Camp. You have to climb some parallel rock, go 300 meters higher, and then also you'll see one wink of Sagarmatha. And she'll be looking down at you like, who's that bitch who wanted to make her feel small? Come here. Dude, I'm telling you, but look, we had achieved something, right? So, Preeti sort of hobbles over to me with her blistered feet. And she gives me this really warm hug. And as it is in most of these moments, it starts to snow. And as it's snowing, she's like, hey, Mittal, why are you smelling like my conditioner? I was like, why are you carrying conditioner up a mountain, you silken-haired slut? I was like, I'm done, bro, I'm done. Binoy, helicopter. As soon as I turned to Binoy and said, helicopter, I hear, yes! Preeti. She's like, Aditi, I knew that if the helicopter was going to come for anyone, it was going to come for you first. I was like, you bitch, I thought you were my friend. You laughed at everything I said. And she's like, yes, Aditi, because there is no one funnier than when you want something out of them. So anyway, we get onto the helicopter. They have to put us on a weighing scale, to get onto the helicopter. And I'm like, finally, my moment of joy. I jump on the helicopter and I have gained 7 kgs. Because apparently thepla calories are not group discounted. And for those of you wondering where Binoy is, I don't know. Because I currently have about 300 unread WhatsApps from him. And I will not open them. Because I know if I do, I will not be here. I will be somewhere 5,634 meters above sea level. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aditi Mittal. Have a great